Hello, my name's George. I go by Glacko online. This is my first attempt at a 3D printing video. Kind of want to cut to the chase. Don't want to take a lot of people's times up. So what I have here to talk about today is, story is I bought this CR-30 for about 500 bucks about a year and a half ago. I've done a few modifications to it. It came with the extended bracket that allows for longer prints. However, I do know that there are prints on Thingiverse that allow you to make it more modular in case you don't want to buy it directly from Creality. But Creality should still have the bracket available. And then as well, I have several other ones in my print farm that I can talk about in a later video. But for this, I just want to make it quick, down and dirty about everything I've learned working on the CR-30 and doing a lot of tweaks on it over the last few months. So first thing I really wanted to talk about is I have 3 things here that are recommended by Stuart over on Gritspace. For those that don't know much about belt printing, there aren't that many slicer options right now. So in terms of slicer options, you have Kirimoto, you have Idea Maker, and then Creality's default one, which I can talk about in a little bit. But that being said, so some of the recommendations that Stuart has, and I'll link to the forum post in the description below, is that he recommends loosening the heated bed. So essentially what it is the heated bed on the CR-30 has 6 bolts that are laid in the back, and what you want to do is you want to unscrew 5 of them to allow for the bed to basically expand. So what essentially happens, if you think about it, is let's take a piece of paper here. So let's say this is your heated bed. As time goes on, right, and the print starts to get hot, what it'll want to do is naturally dip in the middle due to gravity. So let's say it just starts to bend, right, and what will happen there is that you'll have a lot of adhesion issues. So your prints, especially because they start in the middle of the bed, because that point dips slightly, ever so slightly, like maybe half a millimeter or a millimeter or something, it'll want to pop off. So that's one of the big 3 things he recommends. Secondly is adding a linear rail to your x-axis. That being said, so there's plenty of people that have talked about this and shown modifications. I'll put a link in the description about where you can buy it, but it's basically just as simple as buying, I believe it's a 300 to 350 millimeter linear rail off AliExpress or Amazon. And what you can do is you can take a 3D printed template for you to be able to drill through, or even make a new bracket from scratch. You can drill through your existing metal bracket and then use your existing one to put it directly on the linear rail, so you can take a lot of those extra parts off. So third and finally from Stuart is Capricorn Tubing. And so one of the big things is, right, the PFTE tube that the CR-30 stock comes with can tend to heat up, right, deform, cause the filament in there to bind. And so the Capricorn, right, I use it on a lot of my printers. That was one of the first upgrades I did to the first printer I have back there, the CR-10S. So those are 3 of the main things that he thinks you should do. And I have some other ones that I think that you really need to look out for. They're almost mandatory, I would say, in my eyes. And the first is to be cognizant of your nozzle. And what I mean by this is, okay, and so what I have here are nozzles from Idea Former. And basically all these is they're higher degree nozzles, meaning to say that if you take a look, and it'll probably screw up the autofocus, but if you take a look, the nozzle tip on this is a lot more shallow, or a lot more narrow, and a lot more pointed into the bed. Basically what that allows for you to do is it gives you better adhesion, because as the print comes out, it's basically coming out at a 45-degree angle. Whereas other nozzles, conventional ones like your Micro Swiss ones, etc., at least like Triangle Labs, I upgraded the hot end on this guy with a Triangle Labs from AliExpress for like 25 bucks, because it fit right back into where the stock one went. The problem with that nozzle out of the box is that it's pretty much 90 degrees, which just does a terrible job of adhesion. So I really do recommend getting nozzles that just kind of are nice and elongated and really can dig into the bed. And then finally, I'll go ahead and talk about slicer settings a little bit here.
Hello. So what we got here in Idea Maker, just a quick overview of my settings and some good practices to do. So name of the game here is adhesion, and so what you want to do is you want to ensure that the layers that are printing at the bottom are printing as slow as possible, and then make up that speed in the rest of the print. So what you want to do is you want to take the base of the print, and let's take a look at these settings. For example, right, take a look here. Speed, so outer shell speed, I have that set to 15 millimeters per second. And I'll upload my profile for you guys to take a look at as well. Just recommend setting this to kind of 15, and then my first layer speed is also set to 15, just to see basically what worked for me. This benchy comes out pretty smooth as is. And then what you want to do is I'll leave a credit in the description for the YouTuber that showed this for Idea Maker. But what you want to do is you set up a modifier using the modifier box, and you just press plus here. You press plus on the right side, and then you speed up that base speed that was previously set to, let's take a look here, outer shell speed, right, set to 15. You can speed that up with the modifier to 50, and it makes up a lot of time. And so let's just go ahead and slice and see what that looks like. Preview. And if you can see here, right, what's happening is the bottom layers print at 15, nice and slow to give as much time to adhere as possible, and then whereas the top, right, can speed up the and print and save you some time that way, since you don't really care that much about it. And let's see, anything else I wanted to talk about? Oh, and then big thing for Idea Maker. You want to just go in your settings. For me, at least, I had to set the belt offset to 0, because it was doing this issue where on the first initial layers, it would want to pop off after a minute or two because it was printing in the air. So just a quick overview about Idea Maker. Play around with the settings. I've got some stuff in here as well as the flow is set to, let's see, I've got my flow set to 55, 65. Otherwise, if I had left it to 100, it started kind of dribbling over and extruding a little bit too much for me. So again, just play around your settings, see what works. But definitely a good practice to maintain is just having that modifier box over. And we'll cut back.
Okay, and we're back. All right, what else can we talk about? Number 6. So, Sonic Pad / Clipper in general on the CR-30. I really do have a love-hate relationship when it comes to utilizing the Sonic Pad on this thing. So one of the big pros, and I'll caveat all of this in that there is news on the forums. I'm part of a lot of Facebook groups, and that includes the Sonic Pad Facebook group. There is rumors that Creality has dropped support officially for the Sonic Pad, which means to say that I'll probably have to think seriously about flashing Debian onto the Sonic Pad to try and keep getting updates and other features that I may want on it. But when it comes to the Sonic Pad out of the box, for the purposes of using the CR-30, it's not bad. I can't really tell about the print speeds. So the print speeds that you get with a conventional Sonic Pad, you're kind of limited when it comes to, even though this is kind of a Core XY setup, because you're on a 45-degree angle, you're really limited in terms of the speed. Now, I can also provide my Idea Maker profile. The fastest I've been able to get out of a print like this is just under an hour for a benchy at a 0.28 layer height. I think that would say that's pretty fast from just conventional stock settings. But any faster, I tend, especially trying to use a accelerometer with this thing, it just creates gross layer shifts, and overall just isn't very usable. So I would recommend basically just the Sonic Pad. If you can pick one up used off eBay or something, it's a really good tool for you to, if you want to be able to work on it from your computer. But some of the cons, right, include I had to use a Wi-Fi extender because the Wi-Fi settings on the Sonic Pad don't seem to work and play nice. So I have to essentially trick my Sonic Pad into thinking it's a wired connection by using a Wi-Fi extender, connecting an Ethernet cable up to the CR-30, and then being able to get through it that way. So for what it is, as well, pros, webcam support, right? So I have a little Logitech on there, and it works just fine for monitoring the print from home. One of the cons, right, so like cloud services, etc., it wasn't really anything that got up and running on the Sonic Pad, at least to my knowledge. But in its current form, I don't really see an easy way, unless you want to say something in the comments, right, that you can use a Sonic Pad to monitor prints on your phone as a conventional clipper pad. Like trying to install Octoprint on this thing, not really a fun time. Basically, trying to set up webcam monitoring on my phone over the internet. So, for what it is, right? Sonic Pad, just kind of an easy way to interface and make modifications off the fly. If I need to change something in configuration, right? I'll talk about the stepper motors from NAK 3D next. But when I needed to make configurations to the CFG file, it was a breeze doing that from my computer and sending the file an update, as well as I'm able to send prints directly from my computer, and I don't have to pop the SD card in and out. So needless to say, the Sonic Pad, it's pretty good for what it is in the narrow lane of just making the CR-30 on a daily use case basis slightly easier to work with. But for some of the things like the BTT pad, etc., that you might expect, like that online monitoring, etc., or utilize an accelerometer, right, you might have more issues. So definitely some pros and cons there for you to consider if you want to think about getting a Sonic Pad and you have a CR-30 already. And this is where I kind of go into sort of the quality of life section. So what I recommend, number 7, these LDO stepper motors. So basically what it is you have your X and your Y stepper motors, right? They're 0.9 degree as opposed to 1.8. I don't really know if he's selling them right now. I think he's selling them. However, I paid probably about $130 or so plus tax and shipping, etc. at the time. You might be able to get it cheaper on eBay or something if you can find them, but I've only seen them pop up once, either used or open box format. But it's kind of a useful upgrade because as it is, the shafts come under a lot of strain out of the box, and what these basically do is it gives the shafts some more support. You're getting 0.9 degree stepper, so a little bit, you get the benefits of that 0.9 versus 1.8 degree stepper motors. You get just more relief for the shafts from stepper motors to not be able to sag and degrade over time. And it's easier to adjust, and it doesn't take that long to install. Overall, it's probably my number 1 quality of life upgrade that I would recommend making to this thing if you do get a CR-30, at least for longevity's sake. 5015 fans. So I went ahead and upgraded the 2 stock, I forget what they are, I think 4035 or whatever they are, the smaller box fans on there, and I put in some big beefy 5015s. I can add a link to the print in the description of the bracket I used. Basically, that if all you're doing to the stock hot end is maybe swapping out the hot end for like a microsys clone or something like that, 1-to-1, and the only other thing you might be doing is a linear rail. You can also add in 5015 fans, and I printed it on my X1C for those. They blow fast. I will say that I don't even in Sonic Pad, I don't have to put fan settings higher usually than 40%, especially because you're kind of getting kneecapped on print speed. However, if you do end up doing like a BTT SQR Mini V3 swap or something like that, or just doing regular clipper with like a Raspberry Pi with this, and you want to explore some really high speeds, I think that's when those 5015s would really come in handy. That being said, though, I would not I would not say that it's really a necessary upgrade. I think the stock fans do good enough job, but they're cheap upgrades, and if you want to print in a few hours and you have some extra ABS, because I do recommend printing in ABS, especially being that close to the hot end and around the belt for that long, for those long duration, especially those long prints. I just prefer printing in ABS, and I think that's what the print recommends anyway. Yeah, so I would just say it's an easy swap and it's cheap and it doesn't take that much time to do. Okay, so this is kind of not really applicable. Number 9, the power backup. So when it comes to power backup and having prints fail, let's say you have a 12-hour or 24-hour 2-day print or something, which is common for when you're doing belt printers, right, and you're kind of limited on speed. If you do have an issue and you live in an area like this where I live in right now, currently a slightly more rural area, we have sometimes power surges, and that could be enough to shut the Creality pad off, or if you're running other sensitive electronics like a Raspberry Pi or a Pad 7 or something, right? It could cause everything to go off and on, and depending on the slicer you use, your results may vary when it comes to power resume settings. For me, I found that it only really worked when using, and it may just be something in my macros I would have to update, etc. But I didn't use Creality Slicer long enough to figure out what the issue was. But going from Creality Slicer, which the feature worked fine, it would continue prints on a Sonic pad, to Idea Maker, my prints would basically just dig right into the print, and I think it just would act as though the print was starting over from scratch. Not sure about Kirimoto. Maybe it's either or. But in any case, your results may vary. But it is something useful to have, especially if you do have sometimes notice power transients in the grid, etc. Or you're just worried about a print going out and maybe it just needs another 20 or 30 minutes. For me, for my specific use case, it definitely gave me some peace of mind. And it's great too, because if the power goes out temporarily and then comes back, it may just be able to pick up where it left off and not even realize that the power went out. So another kind of quality of life where you don't need, but it's a $50, $100 purchase. I think I use the lowest grade. I forget what the settings are for APS. I think it's continuous or whatever it is, but even the cheapest APS is still fast enough to keep the power on for Sonic Pad. It's not super sensitive in that regard. Let's see. Number 10, electronics cooling. So I'll attribute this to another CR-30 3D printing video I found, where basically he kind of goes over talking about cooling and some of the temperatures in the CR-30. One of the simple things I would just recommend doing is add a box. You might even have some in your drawer somewhere under your desk, or adding brass standoffs to the fan underneath the printer, just to increase the airflow, because out of the box, being screwed right onto the fan, onto the plate, doesn't allow for great cooling. So just adding those brass standoffs could improve your cooling by a few percentage points. And then, I talked about earlier, Webcam. Really helpful if I'm starting a print, right, and I'm worried about, let's say, the print popping off kind of later on in the print. Let's say it's been an hour or two and I'm kind of curious and I'm in a different part of the house or something. I can just use my webcam on my Sonic Pad interface to just, take a look, see if I need to stop the print, and then, fix it, add a brim, whatever I need to do to keep it going. So webcam, again, kind of universal, but they do make, there are custom print brackets for webcams on the CR-30, but for me, I just have a little tiny, on the side, you're able to clip it in and it clips in just fine. And some other stuff. So some other optional upgrades that I haven't played around with that I am interested in doing, but I don't know enough to recommend it. 12, so a Repsoid belt. Basically, there's a blue belt that they have that is, I think, a little more rugged, has a little more features on it. It may allow for the print to dig in a bit better, so to speak, and improve adhesion. I tried using glue stick. Glue stick was just kind of a mess. It's a crutch. It's for those Jeep guys out there. It's just adding like more stabilizers to your front end. It really it just is kind of just like a band-aid for me. I think good adhesion, you have to start fundamentally um, just getting a good level, getting the right nozzle, getting the right temperature settings. Like I talked about in the slicer setting, I think I have mine set to 80 typically, even though you can probably go a little bit lower, 75. But generally, from what I've seen, the hotter the better. But obviously, there is such a thing as going too hot. So yeah, I think that belt would be useful. Especially, it might be useful just buying one now and then having it for the long run. They're not that expensive, and in case they ever stop making belts for the CR-30, if there's anything to go by with the loss of this potentially of the sonic pad, buying a useful or buying one as a spare just to swap out if and when you have a cut or gash or something from your stock belt, maybe less of a headache to try and fix later on. 13th, direct drive. So one of the more common swaps that I've seen people do on these are putting in the Orbiter V2s. At the end of the day, right, and I'm a little bit of a hypocrite because I already added 15/15s to the printhead on this. Just trying to reduce as much mass on the printhead as possible, just reducing vibrations, etc. I think it's not needed. Bowden on this one, in this setup, from all my testing, has been just fine. But your results may vary. Maybe you're just a big fan of direct drive in general over Bowden setups. By all means, right? There's plenty of prints out there, and there's documentation talking about how to add the orbiter to the CR-30 printhead if you'd like to go down that route. Only thing is you just would have to adjust your extruder steps, etc. But that should be relatively easy. Hello, again, first real YouTube video, so didn't realize that my camera automatically shuts off at 20-minute intervals, so just means to say I think that video has already gone on for too long. Alright, sorry, 14th linear rails for your y-axis. Kind of not something necessarily that I think you would need to do, just if you want to have them on the y-axis. There's two of them. I'll put a link in the description if you're interested in that mod. It's pretty self-explanatory, and the creator of it has made some pretty detailed instructions. So if you're more interested, especially after knocking out the x-axis linear rail mod and doing them on the y-axis, then yeah, by all means, do it. I might be able to get around to it, but I do need to get started on my BZBot, as well as my Ender 3 90-degree belt printer, which I'm sure I'll have a video on in the future. And then finally, 15th, multi-filament. Probably not going to be something I even touch on the CR-30 if and when I end up swapping the sonic pad out for something that's a little bit easier to work with, be it Debian, or if I swap to like a BTT Pad 7 in conjunction with an SKR, along with a Raspberry Pi or something to that extent. So it is something I'm interested just to see as a proof of concept. Generally for these kinds of prints, long cosplay props, etc., I would want to color these by hand. They're generally big enough that it's not so much of a hassle, but I am kind of curious to see if it would be even feasible in the first place, which I think would be a cool video idea. But that's all I have for you guys today. Thanks so much if you're still here. I'm not going to say the classic like and subscribe, but I will say please comment if this helped you. Please reach out if you need help. If you've bought a belt printer like an Idea Former, if you have an Ender 3 conversion that's also at 45 degrees, and if you just need any assistance with belt printing, right? It's something that I've kind of tried to help other people with, and I've tried to do as much testing as possible. So please leave a comment if you have any questions or just any testimonials about using belt printers in general. But I think they're one of the coolest aspects of 3D printing, apart from this, regular speed racing for your Borons and VZ-bots, or having 8 to 16 whatever color prints on like an X1C setup, like my X1C there. But yeah, thanks for your time. Bye.